Welcome to Q&A, Social Security Disability Today. This program is brought to you by the Reeves Law Firm, representing you and your Social Security and disability needs. If you have a problem or questions regarding Social Security and disability, call attorney Anthony Reeves. Here's your host, attorney Anthony Reeves.
Okay, this is going to be a tricky one because I'm going to categorize this as marijuana over here and everything else over there. Let's start with everything else first. I talked about this with alcohol, and what I mean by everything else, I'm talking about, ecstasy, mushrooms, cocaine, crack, LSD, all those hardcore drugs, heroin, all those other drugs and so forth. Keep in mind this. Social Security has the responsibility to determine whether or not illegal drugs has an impact on the finding of disability. So the first thing they're looking at is, are you disabled? If they think you're disabled, they then have to determine, are you using illegal drugs? If they determine that you use illegal drugs, they then have to determine if those illegal drugs are material to a finding of disability. In other words, they're asking the magical questions. If we take these illegal drugs out the equation, will the condition improve to the point where the person is no longer disabled? That's where it becomes tricky. Now, I say all that to say all this, because it can sometimes get a little weird on you. Because you need to know that illegal drugs, I tell people when they come to me and they say, oh, I've had relapse. The first thing people come to me when they say they're using drugs or they've used drugs, I'll say this: you must stay clean. I can't even stress it. Social Security is not a fan of people who use illegal drugs. And I know that it gets tough. You relapse, things happen, you fall and you bump your head. I got you, boo. I got you. You got to stay clean, because if Social Security believes that your drugs are a reason why you're disabled, you won't get benefits. Now, if you notice at the very beginning of the video, I said I'm splitting this in half. Illegal drugs over here, marijuana. The reason why I say I split it in half is because marijuana is in a unique situation. It's unique because it is literally, and I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. In some states it's legal. Some states it's not. Some states it's legal. If you're in a state where it's illegal, the standard that I talked about with illegal will still, the other substance is going to still be in effect. It becomes a little bit trickier when you're in a situation where you're in a state where it's legal, because it's, in some instances, it's provided as a part of a normal course of treatment. Okay, so it's a normal course of your medical treatment. So the question then still kind of comes into play is, like I said, it's kind of a weird thing, because I know some of you are like, okay, Attorney Reeves, how you going to say it? This is how I look at it. And I'm going to be blunt when I say it. I don't live in one of those, let me rephrase that. I don't live in one of those kind of states. I've worked a few states that are like that, but I don't live in a state that's like that. And then the clients that I've had where they had legalized marijuana, I've never had a client who's had that prescribed to them. So I tell people when they ask me, what type of impact will my legal marijuana have on my case? And I always tell them it depends on the facts of your case. It depends on what the marijuana is being prescribed for, if there's somebody following the treatment regimen for it, the circumstances, all the conditions that you have. All of those things have to come into play, because there's no way for me to say in a lump sum kind of way what impact marijuana will have on your case. Now, I will say this. If you're living in a state where it's illegal, then the drug and materiality standard is going to probably come into play. It may or may not come into play in states where it's legal. But again, it all depends on the totality of the circumstances. But I tell people this. If you're using illegal drugs and you're applying for disability benefits, stop, because that's almost always a bad thing. If you're in a state where marijuana is legal, it depends on the circumstances. Make sure you speak to a representative so that you know what kind of impact it will have.